So continuing our theme of self-injury for March, today I'm going to talk you through some of the ways that people do injure themselves. So generally when we talk about self-harm, people think of cutting, and that is quite a common way that people might hurt themselves. So cutting their arms or their upper thighs or their hip areas, in particular, areas that are generally quite easy to conceal. But that's not the only way that people can hurt themselves. Another way is burning the skin, so using a lighter or something like that to burn areas of the skin. Picking at the skin, so perhaps picking at a scab to the point that it never really heals and scars instead, or picking at the skin around nails to the point where it becomes really, really sore and perhaps bleeding, or biting the skin, or perhaps biting your nails down so far again that they become really, really sore. Pulling hair is another way that somebody might harm themselves. So really, really tugging on the hair. And sometimes people can end up really pulling clumps of their hair out or their hair becoming really quite thin. Some people might punch or hit themselves or other objects. Sometimes people will punch walls. So sometimes it can be quite extreme to the point where they may end up with a broken hand or quite significant cuts or grazing across their hand. Excessive alcohol intake is another way that people can harm themselves. Sometimes we don't think that at the end of a long, difficult week, so we've had a difficult emotional situation, if we then go out and drink a massive amount of alcohol in order to cope with that or to make ourselves feel better, something that is damaging for our body is actually a form of us self-harming. We are harming our body in response to a difficult emotional situation. And the same can be said in terms of excessive eating. We might get home at the end of a week and eat a massive amount of calories or binge eat. And again, that's a way that we are harming ourselves in order to deal with the way that we are feeling. And in terms of eating habits, of course, it can be the other end of the spectrum, which is in terms of starving ourselves or not consuming enough calories to maintain ourselves. Excessive exercise is along that same spectrum as well. So they're just some of the ways that people might harm themselves. There are lots of ways that people could do it, but it's just to kind of raise awareness that it's not just about cutting, and that perhaps people are self-harming or injuring themselves without even realizing that that's what they're doing.